Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about. It's about the safety and the security of the information in your home network. As the technology use is increasing, we are relying more and more on the internet to provide information, to do our day-to-day chores, to do our day-to-day activities. And especially in this day when because of pandemic, we are relying even more on the technology and the online internet access for a lot of things that probably we were not using it that much. What that means is that as we are exposed more and more to the use of internet, use of the websites, we as adults and our children, our families, they are exposed more and more to the threat that is out there because of the bad content or the bad websites that can do more harm to you than they can do good to you. And as adults, you may be able to take some measures. You know the signs when such kind of activities may be taking place, but your children, they need help. That means it is our responsibility as parents, as adults in the house, to provide a safe way for our kids to be able to use technology, use the internet to the best use. So before I discuss how to create this safe environment, let's look at how we use internet at home. So let's talk about these topics one by one. Let's look at the banking. Banking is something that we have been doing before. We've been doing online banking. Pandemic has not done anything different to the way we were doing banking. Only thing that may have changed is that you're not going to the bank as often that you were doing it before. But if you are using your online account to make payments, to do any kind of transfers, to do all the activities, you are still doing the same way. That means your exposure to this threat has not increased that much because of the increased use of the technology. Shopping, that is a problem because in the past or in before the pandemic days, you were still going to the brick and mortar stores, but now you are relying more and more on the online shopping activities. What that means is that the threat to your exposure has increased multifold because of this. That means there are hackers, there are predators out there who want to gain access to your internet highway that you're traveling to do your shopping, so they can steal your information. So by stealing the information means they can do financial harm to you. Think about it, that your credit card information is exposed because your internet access was not secure. Now somebody else is using it. I get multiple calls during the day about like all this social engineering because somehow they managed to get hold of my name, or they know that, let's face it, a lot of people are shopping on Amazon.com. I get so many scam calls from Amazon.com. So our shopping activities have increased a lot. That means we are more exposed to hacking. We are more exposed to information stealing. Information. What that means is that now it's a good thing that now we have access to more information thanks to the online content. Let's say thanks to Google. We can search for information for which we had to do a lot of research going through the books. So now because of pandemic, we want to be up to date with what is happening around the neighborhood, what is happening in my city, what is happening in my country, what is happening in the world. As we are surfing more than we used to, that means again we are more exposed. Our exposure to this information highway has increased. That means if you're traveling more, there's more chance of accidents happening on this internet highway. So more need to be have a safe highway. Entertainment. Online entertainment is the thing these days. Pretty much, lot of most of us are exposed to this. We are watching movies, we are watching shows, we are watching the games, pretty much all the entertainment, YouTube, Hulu, Disney, or any kind of entertainment that we have, we are accessing more and more. Work. Work is now, because of pandemic, the work from home has become more prevalent than it used to be before. But since this part of this highway is used by the adults or people who are more aware of the threats on this highway, but still our exposure has increased. If I was only working, let's say, 1 day in a week from home, and now I'm working 5 days in a week from home, that means my exposure to this threat has increased 5 times. Now comes the education part. This is where our kids are getting exposed more. All the kids who were not being homeschooled before, now they are kind of mandatory being homeschooled. All their classes are taking place from home. That means they have to use your computer. They have to use your laptop to access their content. And while they're accessing their educational classes only, you very well know that kids are curious. They will click on something that they should not be clicking on, which will expose them to the content that they should not be exposed to. A step in the wrong direction can really lead to some very undesirable results. That means our exposure these days is increased tremendously to this internet highway that we are using in our home. So, I've used the term internet highway a lot in this talk. Let's look at what that highway, ideal highway, will look like. So this is the highway that you hope for, that your kids wants to go from home to school, they want to go to work, you want to go to work, or you want to go just shopping to a mall. And when you do this thing, your ideal world will look like is that all the internet highway is properly marked. It tells you with the signs to the kids, even to you, don't go in this direction because there is some bad content on this side. Or they will have a danger sign, walk, take precaution, don't go to the left, don't go to the right, there's a stop sign. That is what a highway that you hope for, that is out there. But what you get in reality is completely different. Internet highway is, I will say, is the most unsecure highway I can think of. There is no policing. There are no signs on the highway which will tell you don't go in this way. On the internet, it is a complete opposite. All these predators or all these bad content websites, they will put signs in such a way to make you believe that going in this direction is going to lead you to a place which is wonderful. And if you are not paying attention, you will take the bait and you will go in that direction and end up in a place where you don't want to end up with. So, since we are calling it internet highway, what is that? When we say highway and travel, let's look at what this travel really means. So, when you are traveling from your home to some place, a cinema house, a playground, a shopping mall, a movie place, how does it work? You have, from your home, you have two paths. You know the friendly name of the place, like in this I'm saying it's Joe's Playhouse, and you also know the exact address of this Playhouse, 800 Candy Lane, Choco City, Sugar State. That means you punch in these numbers in your GPS and it will tell you which road to take, which turn to take, which turn not to take, and you reach from your home to the place where you want to go in a very safe manner. That is, if you know the address, or if you don't know the address, you will use some service, some search service, some call-in service, and say, I want to go to Joe's Place House. What is the address? And they will tell you the address, and then you follow the sequence. What that really means for internet, same thing happens on internet also, is that on internet, the websites that you know, they are just the friendly names. Amazon.com is just a friendly name. MySchool.com is a friendly name. YouTube.com is a friendly name. But that is not how you access the information from these websites. Behind all these websites, there is a address, what we call as the IP address. Nowadays, a lot of people are aware of this term, IP address. There are good websites, there are bad content websites. So that simply means is that when your machine accessing a website, it is using these addresses. So the thing that complicates this is that these addresses, they change from time to time. So what that means is the friendly name does not change, but behind the scene address changes. So that means there is some kind of a place where the same kind of queries have to go. That I want to go to Amazon.com, and then they will say, okay, you want to go to Amazon.com, here is the address 5.6.7.8, and then your browser goes from your home, sends a signal to address 5.6.7.8, and it gets the information from that place. So what do we have here? So that means there is a dictionary. The thing is, there is not just one dictionary. There are multiple dictionaries that are available out there. It is like you have multiple search engines. They give you the same information. Some will give you a more optimal information, and some will give you a non-optimal information. What that really means is that when you are searching for something on Google, or let's say Bing or any other search engine, sometimes you complain, this is not the information I was looking for. I will eventually get to it. It will take me a long time. Or if you have a search engine that gives you exactly the information based on the query that you have asked for, that is the ideal way. So that means there are multiple dictionaries available to you which can answer this question. So let's look at what your home network setup looks like, because now, so what you have is you have an internet service provider. This is the internet service provider through which you are accessing all your content. From the internet service provider, then there is a cable that is coming into your house, and inside your house you have a cable modem, and from this cable modem then comes your personal way of setting up this whole infrastructure. In the past, people were accessing the wired connection, but now I will say 99.9% people are probably using the Wi-Fi connections. That means you have a router in front of your cable modem, a Wi-Fi router, and which is being used by all your devices to access all the information. What this diagram shows you is a lot of arrows, and with the bold sign on it. What that simply means is that, so these are the paths that are being taken. This is how the information is flowing from different places. Like if you look at it, when you are accessing information, the information is flowing from internet service provider to your cable modem, to the router, and from router to your laptop, to your phone, to your entertainment devices. You can, from this thing, you can see that you have a lot of highways that need to be secured. Some of these highways you have control on, some of these highways you don't. Let's talk about the internet service provider. You really have no control on what your internet service provider is doing. all they're doing is you are asking them for a content from their servers, and then they're giving it to you. They really have no interest in monitoring it. Next thing is, let's say the cable that is coming in. There's no much you can do about it because it's just a hardware cable that is flowing the bits from the service provider's location to your home and to the router. That means you have a lot of places that you want to protect. So let's look at what this protection looks like. So you have your antivirus on your laptop, on your desktop. You have some kind of a similar device management applications on your phones, on your mobile devices. And what you have is that it's a good thing you install all these things, but now you have multiple places you are relying on protection at multiple levels. And if you will always kids always don't do what you ask them to do, and what they're gonna do is they will, since they are the one who are managing it, unless you are being very, very careful about the level of access they have on their machine, they can disable your antivirus. They can uninstall any application. If they can find, they can uninstall to get complete control on the machine. What they don't have control on is one part, the router. So like anything, if you can protect your boundary, if you can protect the entrance, that will save a lot of trouble for you. Because now let's say that a kid manages to disable the antivirus, or they tamper with some of this thing. They really cannot tamper the router. What you are doing is they may try to alter the path of the information access, but at the end of the day, your router is the one that is controlling the entrance to it. So if you can find a way to control that point, at least for the audience that is not tech savvy for now, in the future you want them to be, have more information about the technology. But for the little ones, this will pretty much make sure that they don't end up on the internet highway in a way you don't want them to be. So protection at boundary is very important. In your case, your boundary is the router, because that is the entrance and the exit of all the information back and forth. So earlier I talked about how the internet highway information flow is accessed. It's all through the queries. Let's say that your kid wants to go to myschool.com. Doesn't matter how they do it, from their desktop, from their device. The question is going to be going through your router. It's this responsibility of the router to send this information out to an appropriate query agency, that where should I ask this question from? So earlier I said there are multiple registries, there are multiple dictionaries of these websites and IP addresses. So by default, I've seen that if you have the default configuration of your setup at home, these are being resolved by your internet service provider. Internet service provider, there is no filtering. They have no protection. They're not policing it. If you will ask for the address of a good site, they will give you the address of a good site. If you will ask the address of a bad site, they will give you the address of the bad site. Internet service providers, mostly is the default. Then sometimes people do configure their routers, or you can actually configure this on your machine also, that you can tell your machine that, you know what, when I need answer to a question to my internet highway, always ask this registry. Or what you really want is that configure your infrastructure in such a way so that the question is always asked from a safe registry provider who is policing it, who is filtering it based on the settings you want, so that when you or your kid is trying to access a website and your browser or a device is asking the question, what is the address of this website, it will look at that address, at that friendly name, and will say, if it is safe, it will tell you what the address is. If it finds that this website is being filtered, or this setting says don't allow anybody from my home to access it, it will answer with a negative that nope, I don't know what this address is. What that means for your browser or for your devices, that it will not be able to access it. So that means now you are protecting the boundary, and I hope you have protection at individual machines as well. But once you have protected the boundary, that covers a lot, that reduces a lot of threat of this internet to your home network. So what you're really looking for protection is change the internet direction provider. When I say change the internet direction provider, means change the service which is answering the queries for these IP addresses, or what we say the DNS server that is translating your friendly URLs to the addresses. Earlier I mentioned there could be 3 types. I've seen that because you're changing this on your router, so you may find that your router, depending on the router you're using, by default it probably is resolving it through your internet service provider, or somebody is having a custom setting on their machine how they resolve it. So that means you need a service. So what I use is called a service from OpenDNS. I use them as my DNS provider. That is what my router uses. Before I say anything further, I am not an employee of OpenDNS. I'm not affiliated to OpenDNS in any form or way. It is just that I use it. It works for me. It is doing a wonderful job for quite a while, and I like it. So again, don't take my word that you have to use OpenDNS, but it works. So you can pick any other service if you want to. It is free. It's very easy to set up. It provides you very different levels of protection. It is free, but they also have a paid service. When you're paying some money to somebody, that means they're offering some additional services. What this additional services means is that they allow you to nitpick on the websites also. Sometimes you want to blacklist some website, and sometimes you want to whitelist a website. So they provide you that kind of control if you're using a paid service. This is what it looks like, is from their site, that different plans. The top 2 are the free plans. It's up to you how you configure it. If you, for example, if you use a Family Shield type of setting, means everything is pre-configured. That means you don't get to configure anything yourself. You just trust what the provider is doing for you. If you're a little bit more hands-on, you can still use the free service and customize it. That what is the protection level you want to use. Third one is the home, which paid service. Again, it is all the services that being offered by the other plans, plus it allows you to optionally control the list. The 4th plan they have is business. That is not the topic of the discussion. What does it look like? The settings. So you can see they have the settings, the levels. So you can either choose don't block anything. You can completely do a custom setting, or you can rely on their settings. For example, if you are only trying to protect the pornography in your home, then you can choose a low setting. If you want to be a little bit more control a little bit more, so you can use a moderate. Again, it will control the pornography and some other adult related and illegal activities. I mean, it may even protect the sites that block the sites that may be okay for you, but then the high is a very, very restrictive one. That means you, your family, your kids will be limited to very, very safe sites. And or you can just simply say whitelist only. That means you will only allow the access to sites that you approve of. Does not matter what is their moderation level. At the bottom, this is the control that I get when I use paid service. What this means is that, for example, that even though there may be a website which may be okay as far as these service providers are concerned, but you don't find it okay, you can block it. Or there may be a site which these services may be blocking, but you find that it is okay or you need it, you can unblock it. I've seen this happen at work a few times, that, for example, when we are trying to access source code from some open source repositories, if they get mislabeled, the services do block them, then we have to unblock it. So that is what you configure at this DNS level. Make sure that you do enable stats and logs. That means that all the activities that is happening in your network is being recorded. From time to time, look at these logs. You may find that your kids may be accessing the sites which are not being blocked by any of these levels, but you find that they really should not be looking at it. Then you can actually control it if you're using a paid service. And last is that once you have decided on the DNS service that you are using, then comes the part of configuring your router. I use Google Mesh. I'm not saying you have to use Google Mesh. It is a thing that I like. It works for me. It is a very hands-free kind of setup that provides me. And best part is that I can access it from anywhere. I have even if I'm not home, I can use it from my phone, access it from my home. The last part of it, you can see that it has 3 settings, that how the resolution of the website names is happening. The first one is set to automatic, which I'm assuming it is the Google's DNS servers. The second one is the ISP. Then the third one is the OpenDNS servers. So these addresses 208.67.222.222 or 220.220, they are OpenDNS. And once these are configured, now all the resolutions of these websites is happening through OpenDNS. I would strongly suggest to use a router which the settings that you can access from anywhere. So you can change these as needed, even if you're not at home, but it's your choice. I'm not a Google employee. I'm not affiliated to them also. So I use it. I like it. It works for me. So it's your choice what you use. At the end, safety is a choice you have to make. Nobody is going to force you to do it, but we all have responsibility towards our kids, our family. So for adults, it's a choice they make, but for the kids, they depend on you. It all depends on the choices you make for them. So do the best you can to protect them. You don't have to be, it's not a rocket science. What I described, changing the DNS on your router or these kind of measures, you don't have to be a technology guru to do this. Simple steps can go a long way in protecting the internet highway for your home, for your kids. If you run into any problems, or if you need a little bit more control, or you need a different kind of service, there's a lot of information available, online help. Use it. It will help. And if you still have some questions, feel free to send it my way. I'll do my best to answer these questions. And just to put it on the record at the end again, I'm not affiliated to OpenDNS and Google. No, I'm not their employee. I just use their service. They work. They work great. They're easy to use. They're easy to set up. So at the end, I will say, do the best you can to create a safe environment for your kids and your family. At work, you have these professionals who are doing it for you, but your kids depend on you. You have the responsibility. You have to make the choices for them and make the safe choices. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.